story of a micro-scale, mini-scale factory that through the ways that it worked and the values that it had, in one generation became a world leader. Now, I have to talk in English because I'm learning good Hindi, but it's not good enough yet for the audience over here. You see, my father came from one part of India. My mother came from another part of India. The only language they spoke at home was English. And then I was sent off abroad by my father, along with my brother, at a very young age. In fact, I guess it's true, in this fantastic, diverse country of ours, there is no language that you can actually speak which is understood by everybody. So I hope it is okay that I speak to you in English. The products we chose to make were those that assure the health and well-being of our nation. Those that not only cure sickness, but prevent death. We start with, next. We start with a little story of a mother and two sons. We received very solid bonding from our mother. And that created a bond between my brother and I. Really, we don't know which one of us is older. It depends on the subject. Great respect for each other and love. And while we were not together when we were young, but when a tragedy happened in our family, which I'll tell you about, we came together. And let me tell you about the great importance of bonding to your siblings, to your brother and your sister. Because if you can get into your micro-scale or small-scale industry together, you can build it up like you cannot do if you're alone. Later on, as your families grow, you may divide up the businesses, but those first 10 to 20 years, it's really invaluable not to try to do it all alone. So, my father was very different from my mother. He loved traveling along. He made a lot of money in his lifetime, and then he spent it all. They say that the first generation founds the business, the second generation builds it up, and the third generation spends it all. In my case, with the great love and respect I have for my father, I'll never forget when I was 18 years old, he called me and he said, "Son, you're now a major. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. My father," that is grandfather, "didn't leave me any money. He left it all to charity, which, if you're from North India, you'll have heard of his trust, which supports dozens of schools and religious edifices right across North India." So he said, "I got no money. Let me tell you, what I have earned, I'm going to spend. I will educate your brother and you as long as you want. I will spend money on that. After that, don't expect any inheritance." Now you can imagine a young 18-year-old boy from a sort of industry business background being told that he'll have to go and get a job. And I had really no idea how one gets a job. So I cried in bed that night after I told my brother. Anyhow, we got that fantastic education that I'm grateful to my father that he gave us in the best universities in the world. My brother became an engineer, and I went more into the commercial area. And then my father died suddenly. On his birthday, after his birthday party, we were not with him. Next. Two brothers, realizing that they'd have to walk the road together. We had nobody else in the world to guide us in business or whatever we wanted to do. Next, please. And so we were pretty shaken up. We said, we were studying abroad. We said, should we come back to India or should we go back again? Maybe we can get a very good job. And most Indian educated men at that time didn't stay in our country. They'd go abroad to get a job with a bank or IBM or IT and so on. But we said, having been abroad for many years, we said, what a fabulous country we have come from. Unlike England and other places, the sun shines every day, predictably. The people here, what I remember of them, are kind. They're highly productive if you give them the right management and you give them the right incentives and train them. And nothing is built in this country. I'm talking of the 1960s, where even the bathtub in my mother's small apartment in Mumbai, the bathtub said, Shanks, made in England. Now, Jasjeet and I got really excited. He's an engineer. I know how to sell. We're going to stay here and we're going to industrialize this country. And that's what we finally did. Now, we didn't have much money. My father left us shares of one nominal value, 1 lakh of rupees, in a tiny little operation that he'd just received a license and the building was not ready. Next, let's have a look at the building. My father also left my brother and me one racehorse from his racehorsing days. And that racehorse I was able to sell for 30,000 rupees. So we have 1 lakh of rupees shares, which were worth zero because the company was in big losses, and one racehorse which we sold. So you can imagine we were micro scale. Next, please. That was what we inherited, a half-built factory. To get to this factory, which was in a village called Charkop, in the western suburbs of Bombay, we had to go to Kandivali railway station by train, and then we had to take a ghoda gari to get to this factory because there was no road. Now, mind you, why I'm telling you this story is, whatever be your background, however big it is, when you start your own business and industry, you must adjust your behavior and your style to what you have developed and expect to develop yourself. So on the road at night, when we're returning back from the factory, there'd be panthers, as well known in Borivali and Kandivali, a lot of snakes on the way. Eventually, we went and lived on top of the factory. My mother was kind enough to join us, and the three of us learned how to make products with our own hands. My brother, though he had a high degree in engineering, learned how to use a screwdriver and a spanner and repair the machine at 2 o'clock in the early morning so that it would start working for the 6 o'clock shift. And I would be with my bag of capsules, which we make, I'll tell you about it, in the medicine markets of Delhi or Calcutta, trying to sell my capsules for 20,000 rupees worth and collect my dues, 30,000 rupees from someone who made me wait for an hour outside his office for my money. I'm sure many of you in your micro-scale and small-scale industries have been through or will be going through the same experience. We all have lived through it. But we all, thank you. But we all must keep our sights high for where we want to get to eventually. We had a very small team, about 20 or 30 people. This photograph shows even their children and their dogs and cats. And we lived like one family and we worked together. I'm telling you how we started because we have ended up as the largest company in the world in one of our products and the second largest in another product, to India's great credit. Next, please. We had no technology when I started. Capsules is one of the most difficult products to make in the pharma industry, into which medicines go. We had no technology, and very quickly we found that the industry my father had chosen, which he knew nothing about, had no market. The whole market for capsules was in the hands of 12 customers, I will not name them, in different parts of India, who imported their capsules, imported very expensive machines, and kept the whole process a secret. So first we had to find out the technology to make this complex product. Nobody in the world was interested in giving a tiny little company in India technology. There were 3 or 4 people who could have helped us. They did not. They were not even interested in coming to meet us in India. So I asked my brother, I said, may I go abroad for 3 months and I will bring you back the technology. And I went off to this building that you see over here. It is Her Majesty's Patent Office in Lincoln's Inn Fields, where the knowledge of the world resided. And for 3 months, I would be outside their door at 9:30 in the morning till 5:30 in the evening when they closed. What would I be doing? Reading patent after patent after patent, how to make capsules, how to make capsule machinery, how to fill capsules, what is gelatin and HPMC made out of. Now, as I accumulated this knowledge, which was coming to me free of charge, except for my airfare, I had no photocopying machine. They hadn't been invented. Typewriters were not allowed in the patent office because of the noise. So I had to write the heart of the patents by hand. And I'm not a good draftsman, but I had to draw the machines on my paper, again by hand in my own crude way. And I took back to India a trunk full of technology, which then for my engineers and managers and technicals were thrilled. Because in patents, particularly in the old patents which have expired, you get far more knowledge than in the newer patents which are all disguised. So my message to you is, you don't have to import technology at high cost into India. You don't have to necessarily collaborate with a provider of technology as you grow bigger. There are a lot of pitfalls in these areas, which I could talk to you if I have time or if you ask the question. Get the technology, look at the patents as I did, read all the literature, and you will get started. And if you don't do it, you will possibly not be able to grow in the directions that the world is growing. Next, please. My brother and I would travel around the world once every 3 or 4 years and meet every supplier of every product that we needed in our factory. So we needed a viscosity controller to control our gelatin. We'd go to the factory where the viscosity controllers were made. We'd go to their suppliers where the springs, etc., were made. We went so deeply into the technology that we really had tremendous self-confidence that we can lead the world. Next, please. We started a small workshop with 1 lathe, which then grew as we were able to invest more and more from our earnings, till eventually we went into the machine building business from capsules because there were no machines available in the country. And we couldn't afford to import our own plant again because 200% import duty, depreciating rupee, and so on. Next, please. That finally, after 8 years, we built what is an automatic capsule plant without any drawings, without any technology. The second time in the world it was being made, and largely on the experience that we got and that you will get. Next, please. So, as we earn some more money, and we always plow back. We never give dividends to us shareholders. In fact, I always say that our people who work for us get more share of the profit than we do, because they get their bonuses depending on the surplus. Our surpluses, which would come as dividends, go back to the company for growth. Our people who work in our company are not employees. The word employee, please listen carefully. 7 years ago, the word employee was banned in our group. There are 4,500 people today. Everybody is a team member or is an associate, so that they have the respect of not being told you're an employee. What are you? You all don't feel it because you're entrepreneurs, but the people who work for you feel it. And mark my words, in a few years from now, that word employee will not be used anywhere in the world. Next, please. As soon as we could afford it, we set up a library. We love learning, and we want our people to have access to books and magazines. Please remember, there was no internet in those days. You couldn't get access from your phone. So you must provide it for your people. Next, please. It's very important to look after your people. May I go back to the last slide for a minute? You know, people say that you must go into industry because you then make money and you can look after your family and so on. My brother and I have never thought about running the business just to make money. Money came 7th or 6th in our priority. We were young, we were not married. Those may be reasons why we weren't hankering after money. In fact, if you don't run your businesses with the thought that whether that business is making money or not, you will stay in that business and you will succeed. Because you'll find that most of other people in your business will remain there while the money is being made and will sell off or leave their businesses when there's no money to be made. And that is not the way to succeed and to grow. So what is important for us then? For us, the most important thing was to make great products. The pride with which the Apple phone was created, in design, in function, is what you must look in for your products. You must learn, secondly, to satisfy your customers. We are all servants of our customer. They are the boss. They pay our salaries. Third is, we have always believed in exporting our products. Even today, we export 50% of everything we make because our selling prices are higher abroad. Now, and we don't like to be reliant only on the ups and downs in one economy. But the 50% we sell in India is sold at a much lower price than what we export. Because the pharmaceutical industry that we serve has got its own problems on costs, and of course, prices are to some extent controlled. Next, besides export, besides great products, besides satisfying your customer, the heart of it all is research and development. Even if you are a one-man show, please do your own research and development. You can do research and development through colleges. You don't have to spend the money on a research center. Whatever your field is, we have the IIMs and the IITs, and we have so many engineering colleges. They are willing to help you. Next, look after your people. Thank you. I've got 20 more. Look after your people. Now, if you take all these things into account, you also must give back to society. When you have earned something, you give back to society. How do our company give back? First of all, we pay our taxes. In fact, our company got the award from the CBDT for the most honest and straightforward and increasing taxpayer in the whole city of Mumbai. And Mumbai pays 40% of the taxes of the whole country, as you may well know. So these for us are important. So I pay back by paying my taxes honestly. I pay back by looking after my workmen. I pay back by creating good products at affordable prices for the sake of the health of our people. And I, therefore, really feel very fulfilled. And amazingly, when you do all these things, the money just keeps coming in. You don't have to think about the money part of it. Next, please. Now, earlier, one back, looking after people is very important. And ever since we were 100 people, even when we got to 800 people, my mother would play a very active role in rewarding our people and making them feel great. Every year we'd have what you all know, a bada khana. 800 people would be sitting there on the carpets. My mother would cook the food, and my brother and I and our senior managers would serve everybody. Next, please. We were the first company in Bombay, maybe in India, to start its own cooperative store, because you can buy at a lower price and you can pass on that benefit to your workmen, which really improves their standard of living. Just imagine, in those days, there was no way you could get a Swiss watch in India. But the customs would seize thousands of Swiss watches and foodstuffs. And if you were a cooperative society, you could go and bid in the customs. And we used to get Swiss watches at less than 1/2 of the price that they were selling in Europe. And that, with a 5% markup, would be given to our workmen. And eventually, it was making a small profit, but we kept expanding the list of items. Now, I'm giving you thoughts which you can start yourself. We have done it, and it works. You really feel good about these things. We even got the State Bank of India to open a bank counter in our factory, because when we used to give cash to our workmen, at least 20% of them would spend it on the way back home or drink. I'm talking of 30, 40 years ago, right? So from that bank account, immediately when the salary was paid in, 50% would go straight to his village, straight to his wife. And only half the man could draw as and when he wanted from the bank which was in our premises. Next, please. Look, we all ate together in what we call our cafeteria. We all, directors, drivers, workmen, chemists, you got your coupons, you pick up your thali, and you eat together. And that is really instructive. At that time, even the public sector would have 3 dining rooms. One for the directors, one for the managers, and one for the workmen. Impossible. Impossible to run a good unit with that spirit. Next, please. And again, that's my mother, God bless her, looking after our workmen, giving them the salary. They feel so good. They feel she's their mother, and she was. Next, please. The social work that we were doing attracted attention of the government, and the Minister for Social Welfare visited us, spent half a day there to try to understand how we were doing it, what we were doing, and why can't this knowledge be passed on to the rest of industry. We used to hire physically handicapped people because A lot of other charitable work was being done in the villages, but nobody was interested in the physically handicapped in 1970 or 1980. So we said we will look after this segment. We ended up with 20% of our workforce, 400 physically handicapped people. We had a bus to collect them. We taught them how to work. It took 6 months longer. But those people remained faithful to the group long after we started having union problems. They remained faithful, even though they were threatened. 6 of them got married every year. They used to be the most derided people in their family because they never earned anything before. And now they were the biggest breadwinners and earned the respect of their whole family member and the community because they were paid exactly the same salary as the able-bodied people. Next, please. When my brother got married, he was carried around the industrial estate. Many of us in our companies were enemies of the people who work for us. They're our partners. I don't want to say this, but tell me, we are their God. We can do more for them on this planet than anybody else can do for them. So let's be a real God. Next, please. And then unionism struck us when we were 800 people. The fiercest union leader in the country, Dr. Datta Samant, a medical doctor, he'd closed down all the textile mills in Bombay, 50,000 followers. And he spotted us and said, "Oh, how is it I didn't notice associated capsules before?" His men were so ruthless that out of 800 people, you'll always get 15 or 20 who are dissatisfied. They didn't get a promotion or whatever. He would catch those people, he would train them in how to use a knife. They would go around to our workmen's homes and threaten the women in that house, "If you don't join the union tomorrow, we're coming back again." So slowly, we just got totally unionized. We went to the police for protection. In those days, the government had instructed the police, do not interfere in factory disputes. So we were truly hopeless. So we had to learn how to live with this very, very tough and ruthless man. And we found a way. We found a way. And I'd love to tell you about it if you ask me after this is over. But we ended up becoming friends with Dr. Samant. Next, please. There you see, he's eating out of my hands, more or less. Next, please. This is one of my uncles who was an army man, the best HR manager I've ever come across. And I put his picture here, and I put another picture here as well. Next, please. Next, please. Another uncle of mine called Mohan. And they gave their lives for us. And I ask you, when you are a tiny or small-scale unit, you're very attracted to bring in your relations to help you run their company. But remember, they come in with great hopes because they feel it's their company. But you make them work so hard, in spite of their faithfulness, that you really shorten their lives. And that is one of my greatest regrets, that this is what happened in our growth as well. I'll go a little faster now. Next, please. You see over there, capsule filling machines. A tiny tabletop model is what we invented 30 years ago. I told you that we had no market. There were only 12 people who were using capsules in the country. We sold 2,000 little machines and created 800 pharmaceutical factories. And what happened when these monopolies were broken? The prices of medicines came down because there was finally competition in the market from early 1970 onwards. You can track the prices. Next, please. And from making that small machine, the company grew and now you make a whole range of machines for solid dosage forms. Next, please. Some figures which are not so important. Next, please. And now the group is global. The group has got factories, 16 factories in India, a factory in Europe, a factory in Brazil. We'll have 70% of the Brazil market in 2 years. This is a matter of pride for India. We are not making simple products. We're making extremely complex products, going to extremely complex users, and succeeding. Next, please. There are 3 family members in the company, but frankly, they don't count much anymore. We have a leadership team of professionals from all over the world who have chosen to come and live in India, in Pune and in Mumbai, because they find India is a good place to live in, and the Associated Capsule Group is a great company to work for. Next, please. And factories, your factories have to be elegant. Please don't use your money to put up a sorry, sad-looking plant, because you are damaging the whole visual environment. We spend 15% more on our buildings, and we make buildings which are like sculpture. When you drive past any of our buildings, it turns around like a sculpture would and presents a different appearance. The factory on the top right-hand side make all the parts. It's the largest capsule factory in Asia, including Japan. The factory, top right side on the left, is the factory in Europe, which has risen from nothing to becoming the second largest supplier in the whole of Europe, and so on. You'll find most of our factories are surrounded by greenery. Over. Very important to have that right type of image. I'm going to end very quickly now. So let's just go through everything quickly. Factories coming up in Brazil is over. Thailand is next. Next, please. To export to Japan and China. Engineering companies, many of them. Let me take you into one engineering company. When you enter one of our engineering companies, it's not all machines and oil and noise. It looks like a 5-star hotel. And then you go through the passageway, you enter the factory, the floor is so clean, you can eat off the floor. Finish? Yep, okay. So I've been asked to finish. I'd love to go on. There's other interesting things, but I'm very happy that you were able to listen to me. Thank you very much.